Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Longevity Lounge. Today we have on Kyle, who is the fractional CMO at Avalanche Media. And Kyle has had a wealth of experience working with companies from all different sizes with the objective of helping them scale their audience, their customer base, and their lead base. He is a paid ads expert. And so in this episode, we pick his brains, ask him some questions to try and understand how to scale an audience and build a large customer base. Let's jump into this episode. You guys are going to love it. Welcome back to another episode of the Longevity Lounge. Today we have Kyle. Thank you for joining us, Kyle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kyle is the fractional CMO at Avalanche Media. He's done a little bit of work with us on some projects, but you've also worked with a lot of different companies. And Kyle is really just expert in paid ads and marketing. So we just want to pick your brains, honestly, and just learn from your experience with other companies. So just for our audience's sake, do you mind just sharing a little bit about what it is that you actually do?
Yeah. So I am a fractional CMO at Avalanche Media. Late last year, we were actually acquired by a group called Amplio, who does fractional CFO work. And so what we're trying to build is a fractional executive team to help all businesses. Most small businesses fail,
right?
And we find that unacceptable. And so we're here to help bring the expertise to help companies grow and know what to do with their finances and with their marketing.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So would you say that this is something that you've always wanted to do? Like, did you know when you graduated college, you wanted to go straight into marketing or ads, or did this kind of just fall into your lap?
I wouldn't say it fell into my lap, but it was a very big dynamic shift. So growing up as a boy, truthfully, I wanted to be like a wildlife biologist.
Right.
I loved, animals. I loved being in the outdoors. And when I got into college, I actually was like, oh, you know what? I want to do something with business. Not sure exactly what. Took an accounting class, ended up really liking that. I liked numbers. I liked seeing like the balance and the balance sheet and things like that. But I took the accounting exam and did not pass.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, so accounting is not it.
Yeah.
What else is there? And I took a marketing class, and it was like, oh, okay, this is what I've been wanting to do my whole life. So found marketing, fell in love with it, ended up getting an internship at a local school here, Western Governors University. And they liked me. They wanted to bring me on full time. But there wasn't an opening in the role I was in, which was email marketing. Okay. Well, luck would have it that something opened up, and it was essentially my boss saying, hey, you should go do PPC. I'm like, what's that? She's like, it's basically gambling with other people's money.
Oh, okay.
And anyone who knows me knows that I'm a big blackjack guy, and I love blackjack. And I was like, okay, say less. Let's do PPC.
Yeah.
And so dove into that world, was fortunate to be able to spend, tons of money, make lots of learnings, mistakes, get better, refine. And then I have been, with Avalanche for the past decade and started doing PPC and just eventually turned into this role as a fractional CMO.
So it kind of, you'd say it touched on a creative side that maybe you weren't aware of at the time. You're like, oh, this feels aligned with me.
Yeah, I think where the creative and the numbers line up is a place that I just love. I love coming up with one-liners. I wouldn't say that I'm creative minded in the sense of I can design something beautiful, but I know what looks good and what doesn't. And I really do love looking at the math and the numbers behind it of, does this make sense for this business? How can this business scale? And so very passionate about still accounting and the unit economics of businesses and how marketing plays into like a profit and loss statement, but definitely love what I do and where I'm at. So
how would you say that marketing and advertising has changed since you started?
Oh, it's crazy. Like when I first got into the industry, basically PPC was bid adjustments, very specific with your keyword match types, just very technical things that now just don't even matter because the algorithms and AI has gotten so good that really bid strategy is all optimized by a computer now. And I love it in the sense of it makes us be marketers again. Like marketing is about touching a nerve or really speaking to someone, pulling on that emotion. So the things that you can optimize and control are, what does the person see? What's your advertisement, your content, your creative? And then how do they experience the company on the website? Like, what's the UX? How are people, buying something? The Amazon effect is real, right? People have been able to swipe their thumb and a package shows up on their doorstep for so long that as a company, you now have to try to beat that and make that experience that seamless. So I love how those two things meet. I love coaching up my clients and customers to really focus in on those things.
Is there a particular experience working with a company or a client that you're really proud of?
Yeah, I mean, what we have been doing with Beamer is definitely something that I'm very proud of. We've been able to see a lot of really cool success, kind of a pioneering thing in the MLM world. And so really proud of that. There's a couple companies that I've helped go public. I've been able to spend hundreds of millions of dollars in ad dollars in my career and generate billions of dollars in revenue. So definitely proud to be a part of some amazing teams and work with some amazing people to grow companies of all sizes.
Yeah, I'm sure it comes in so many forms, and that is such a great way to learn, especially if you're using other people's money. You're like, okay,
OPM, baby.
yeah. Let's learn this thing. Let's put it in.
Yep.
I think that's awesome. I think something I'd love to get your take on is, I think with AI coming into marketing so much, I feel like I see so many ads now where it's like, okay, this looks like an AI avatar, or this looks like purely AI created.
Yeah.
For me, at least, as a content creator, I can see it and be like, I kind of tune out as soon as I see it. I think a lot of people are afraid that maybe AI would take their jobs or just, I don't know, drastically change the industry. But from your experience working with companies and doing paid ads, is that something that you're nervous about?
I'm really not. I think AI is the great amplifier. It helps you do more with less. It helps you do research and things like that. But at the end of the day, marketing has been and always will be human to human. And I say that because that's something that was taught to me early on, is like, people are always thinking, well, is it B2B or B2C? Whoever is buying the product is a human at the end of the day. And something that will become increasingly more important in my mind is that human interaction. And some people don't think of that as marketing. I think customer service and customer experience is marketing. It is the most important marketing. When you make somebody feel when they call in, or when you're talking to them, or if they come into the restaurant or store, what are we doing to create just amazing experiences for those people? Because if you have an amazing experience, you'll probably tell 4 to 5 people. If you have a terrible experience, you'll probably blast that company on the internet and tell 20 or 30 or 40 people, right? We are by nature negative-minded individuals. And so the more we can create those great experiences, the better off our brand and business will be.
So what would you say are some aspects of AI that people should definitely keep up with, and things that maybe they don't need to worry that much about?
I think the research side is incredible. I can get so much research done. I can have it crawl all the webs of the internet, the Reddit threads, the forums, what's being said on X, and all these places. I can have AI do that in minutes. What would take a human hours and maybe even days to complete. What you cannot compete with, in my mind, is stuff like this. Having good conversation, filming good videos, an actual human talking, because yes, AI is getting really good, but you can totally see the lip movement and different things, right? And so taking the time to actually put yourself out there, get on film, people love that, and that's resonating. And I think it will always still resonate. And so put your focus on that. Put your focus on being creative. Put your focus on looking at what the data is telling you and making decisions. Those are things that I just don't think AI will ever be able to make a very good decision for you based upon what you're seeing and what the impact is.
So for someone who might be listening and they hear all this stuff about AI and they're like, oh yeah, he's going to do this, going to do that. I'm so terrified what this means. I don't even know it's real anymore. How would you recommend that they start implementing AI into their business? What are some simple things that they could do?
Yeah, simple things being, one of my favorite simple prompts is go to Gemini, go to ChatGPT, whichever engine, and take whatever your business or service does and say, please look at, Reddit, X, online forums, and tell me, what are people complaining about related to insert your product or business, right? tell me what the top 10 things are.
Mm.
Have it do like a deep research mode. It'll spit back a bunch of stuff. Then go and make content that answers those questions or solves those problems for those people. Sounds so simple, but nobody's doing it. And do that consistently for a year, 2 years, 3 years. You will be shocked at what happens. You know, I am living proof of this. I've been doing this with my own social media where I do these things. I say, what are people complaining about with marketing? And then I build a content calendar and thought leadership around, hey, guess what? There's a better way. Like, instead of doing random acts of marketing, you can actually have a marketing plan. You can actually look at your business and see what you're trying to accomplish, because everything's relative to that. You can identify who your ideal customer is, what message is going to resonate with them, or build a framework of testing messages to really try and figure out what is resonating to that individual. You will be surprised. You will think that this message is going to be the best, and it's not, and it's something else. And that's just going to happen in marketing. But the goal is just consistency. Everything in life, I've read all the books, I've read all the self-help. It all boils down to be consistent, and the marketing is no different.
What would you say then are some of the biggest complaints about marketing and social media that you're finding in your space?
I would say complaints being, you know, attribution is a big thing right now. Like, everybody wants to know exactly what's going on. And it's very challenging. You know, iOS has made a bunch of updates over the years where it has become harder and harder to know exactly and track exactly what's going on. And you will just never fully know the exact picture. But what you can know is, hey, these messages are working better, or this website experience is better generally. But they'll never be able to know that, hey, I bought this shirt from Vure and I love it. And hey, Ethan, you should buy it too, because it's amazing, right? I just told you that. Where's the attribution on that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows how you heard about it? Now you go and buy because you saw a Facebook ad and they think Facebook should get credit. Should Facebook get credit? I don't know. If I first saw it on Facebook, maybe yes. But if I just saw it in Shields one day, then who knows where the credit should go.
Yeah. Wow, that's so true. And it's true. And that's kind of like the two sides of a coin with word of mouth marketing, where it's so valuable. It's such a prevalent part of people's businesses, especially for people who are in very specialized areas where they can get so many referrals from so many people. They can do such a good job, like you were saying, to customer service or just treating them so well. And they might get a lot of leads, but they may struggle to know where exactly they're coming from. So I guess on that topic, how would you, for someone who's probably relying on referrals or word of mouth, for someone who might be listening, how should they start implementing digital marketing into their business and maybe tracking that process?
Yeah. I think, you know, a lot of people just expect word of mouth referrals to happen naturally, and they don't. We talked about this earlier, but if you have a good experience, you might tell a handful of people. If you have a bad one, you're going to tell a ton of people. And so really you want to try to orchestrate those referrals and build a system. There's multiple ways to do it. The big one being something that we preach from one of our frameworks, which is the one-page marketing plan. Great book, by the way. Y'all should read it. But it talks about the law of 250. So one of the greatest car salesmen ever, his name is Joe Girard. Nobody knows who he is, but he sold over 13,000 cars. And I have told you this story before. And he had this theory that everybody at a funeral has around 250 people who might show up to their funeral, meaning you've had an impact on at least that many people. It might be less now in today's era where people are a little more isolated.
No one shows up.
Yeah, at the end of the day, people have influence. And so you need to have a system that basically says, hey, you were really happy. Please help share the word with us, whether that's through Google reviews or other things, sharing it on your social media. You've got to orchestrate a system that helps generate that from people.
There's a lot of different channels of advertising, and I think this is where people, maybe if they're a little bit older and they're still trying to catch up with a lot of this stuff, they might see this as quite vague, where it's like, oh, you know, social media, the internet, like on internet business. But for some of them who might be listening, who might struggle with the ambiguity there, what would you say are the typical channels of digital marketing and advertising that people are using today?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, people are still searching on Google. AI has not taken that all the way over yet. There is a shift where people are using both and kind of going to Gemini or ChatGPT, Claude. They're doing searches there and asking questions and doing research. They're still using search engines. Those are all still what I would consider digital marketing channels. And then you've got social media as well, which encompasses all sorts of mediums. You've got Instagram, you've got Facebook, you've got X, Reddit, YouTube, TikTok. So there's content pretty much everywhere that people are consuming. A lot of it is in the form of swipeable video, right? Vertical video. And so that is a huge trend, a huge area where I am encouraging most businesses to get content on the vertical video platforms. That's where most minutes on a phone are spent in a day. I would also say that people still do research, people still read articles, but the best way to kind of get in front of an audience is all dependent on your audience specifically and where they're consuming content. So there's different types of businesses. There's businesses where they offer a service. I like to call them phone book businesses, dating myself. But when you needed to call like a plumber or, electrician, whatever you needed, you would go to the Yellow Pages and you'd look up their phone number of who could help me with this. That's what Google became. That is still a huge need. People still do that when they need an immediate problem. And there's businesses who can really succeed by just capturing that demand that's already out there of people searching. But there's companies that don't have something that you look up in the Yellow Pages, and you've got to build up a business and a brand. And one of the best ways to do that is to generate demand through social media. And getting in front of people. There's billboard, there's radio, there's TV. All of those have become digital to some degree, right? Connected TV is connected to your email address. You sign into YouTube. You sign into YouTube TV through your email address. So you can do targeting and campaigns with those channels as well.
What would you say then? You talked a lot about social media, how a lot of people are spending their time, like you said, scrolling. It's so easy. There's a huge psychological aspect there. If someone were to start doing some organic content creation to build their business, I think a lot of people get excited around that, like, oh, just do social media. But I think for a lot of people who are starting out and may not have a lot of experience, they may understand the concept, but they don't really know how to do it. Like, if they would start today, I'm going to start posting every day and I want to build my business, get more clients or get more leads, whatever. They may not actually know how to do that. So what would you say are some maybe principles or philosophies that they should consider as they start doing this, to start building their platform or to start generating customers or leads for their business?
Yeah, I think one lesson I've learned in my life is consultants really are cheat codes. And if you don't know how to do something, it is better to just get an expert to kind of coach you up or teach you to help you learn. So there's that aspect of it. There's a lot of young college kids who are really good on their phone. They know how to edit videos. They know how to make videos. They know what is going to resonate with individuals. They are hungry and scrappy and want to get after marketing. So number one, you could go like an intern route to like help you. But I go back to the research component of understand what your customers' pain points are. We talk a lot in marketing of like, what's the demographic? Who's my ICP? And you almost always define it by like, oh, it's this gender, this age range, this income level. That stuff is cool and nice, but I want psychographics. What keeps them up at night? What are their deep, darkest secrets? How does my problem solve that pain? You talk about one thing that I love to compare it to is like you've got supplements and you've got painkillers. Supplements are good to take and you think that they're working for you and they're great. But if you have a headache and you take an aspirin, you know that your headache's going to go away. That's how you want to position your product or service as a painkiller. You want them to stop thinking about the problem right away, and your content should answer those questions for them immediately.
So how would they go about figuring that out? Because I think a lot of people, when they start out, they think, what's going to reach the most people? Like, how can I get the most people involved in this
Mm-hmm.
video, or how can I get the most reach? But like you mentioned, you gotta niche it down and target a very specific person. So
Yeah.
how does someone go about that process?
So I like this is what good use of AI is, the research and development piece. Go and ask what's going on with Reddit. What are people complaining about? Also, go talk to your customers. If you have customers, go talk to them. A lot of people don't know this, but Airbnb, when they were first starting out as a company, they would go visit their hosts and their guests, and they would interview them face to face and say, what did you like about this? What didn't you like about this? They really wanted to understand how they could make the product better for everyone. And they learned a ton by doing that. So if you're a startup and you only have a handful of customers, pick up the phone, call them, say, hey, I will buy you lunch. Can I just ask you about what happened? Can I ask you about what happened when you were researching or wanted to buy this product or service? Like, what were the things that kind of kept you up at night? And they're going to tell you stuff that resonates with a lot of people. I find it funny, like, the more you talk to people, the more you literally will say, we're all the same, right? Like, the more conversations you have. And so talking to your customer is going to open up a lot of doors and avenues for you as well of, hey, can I ask you, like, what were the top 10 things that were like bothering you that maybe made you start looking into buying a product or service like ours? And they're going to answer them. And then you can make content to answer those questions. And then that's where the creativity comes in of, okay, now let's try this angle or that angle and let's test and do some trial and error. But once you get those first 10 questions, your whole next year could be just around trying to position yourself and answer those problems and concerns that person has. And if you do that, you're going to be successful. And if you're consistent with it, I mean, that's the thing. It's like with health and wellness, everybody knows what you got to do. You got to eat a certain amount of protein every day. You got to exercise every single day. You got to get your steps in every single day. You got to sleep well. You got to drink water. The framework is there. The hard part is actually doing it and being consistent. And that's what separates kind of the greats from the people that are going to stay down here in average land.
Yeah.
And that's same with businesses.
Yeah. It makes me think about, I had a quote once that said something along the lines of the riches are in the niches.
Yeah.
Where, things like industries or spaces like health and wellness, business, whatever it might be, there's so much information out there now that for a lot of people, I think when they start out, especially with organic content, they want to offer value, but a lot of the time the value's already been out there for a long time. And they're like, I'm offering value, like nothing's connecting. I'm doing the research, I'm doing all this stuff and it's not landing.
Yeah.
And I guess that's also where that AI element would come in, where it's like, okay, how can I make this more value driven? And the way often it seems to be, especially with organic content, is I need to niche down. I need to be more specific. So instead of, I help parents lose 30 pounds and get it's like, no, we need to niche it down even more. So that information has been out. I found that with when I did personal training. I tried making content or doing whatever, nothing landed, and I realized I was like, well, I'm not reaching anyone because it's so vague and broad that everyone's like, this doesn't relate to me. And so eventually I realized, I was like, man, I need to niche down even more. So okay, I'm going to work with men who are between 30 and 40 years old, are entrepreneurs, are extremely busy and want to lose this much fat and build this much muscle. And it was like, and then all of a sudden it got more specific, and you think, oh, I'm reaching less people, but somehow it turned into more clients and more leads for me. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. And so I think there's definitely a huge element of that in the health and wellness space, in every space, like that seems to be offering tons of information out there.
Yeah. If you're everything to everyone, you are nothing to no one.
Boom. We should clip that because that's a good quote.
It is. It's just, you cannot be everything to everyone. It is impossible. And so I agree with you that the riches are in the niches, and really trying to get into the mind of that consumer. It's like, but we're excluding people. It's like, that's the point. That is literally the point. Like, if you want to be successful, you have to exclude, and you have to be very targeted on specific people. And as you grow and get more revenue, you can, yes, kind of widen that. But if you're just starting out, you got to be very specific, have a very kind of core group you're going after.
Yeah. Know who you don't want to market.
Yeah. And even say that, we are not for these people.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
That's just not what we are.
Which is hard because I think a lot of people, when they start out, they're like, I just want leads, I want clients.
Yeah.
But it's a tough mentality to balance, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I guess making a slight transition now, I think something that a lot of people are interested in, and we've talked about this a lot, is organic content is one thing, paid content, paid ads is another thing. If you were to walk us through your process of how you help companies get more leads through paid advertising, what does that process look like for you?
Yeah. I think starting out from ground zero is understanding what does the demand look like for the product or service. Are people searching for it? If they are, great. Let's spin up some keyword campaigns. These are literally people raising their hand saying, I want what you have. If that is not existent, then you've got to figure out where they're consuming content. If you're working, and I mentioned human to human, right? But there are certain platforms that just are better for if you are a business selling to another business, or if you're a business selling to a consumer. So you want to understand like your media mix. Where are my customers at? Where are they consuming content now? And how can I reach them? So I like to do a lot of research. I don't just say like, well, Instagram sounds good. Let's start doing some Instagram. No, I want to understand like, where are these people? What type of media are they consuming? And then we can build a plan from there. So from an advertising standpoint, it literally becomes, okay, here's the channels that make the most sense. Let's do some testing. Let's figure out what our customer lifetime value is. Let's set a realistic test budget of what we're going to try out. And ideally, it's going to be at least how much revenue you will receive from a customer to test it out. So it's all relative to your company. But if you sell a product that sells for $1,000, you should be willing to spend at least $1,000 testing it out. If your customer lifetime could be 50,000, 100,000, you should be willing to spend at least 50,000 or 100,000 to see if you can make it work. I run into a ton of companies who say, yeah, we tried marketing, it just doesn't work. And it's like, well, what's, the lifetime value of a customer? Oh, millions of dollars. Okay, and how much did you spend? Oh, a couple thousand. So you're telling me that you were willing to spend a couple thousand to see if you could get $1 million client? Like, come on. You've got to be willing to invest more than that to capture these type of people. Those are going to be hard people to capture. Their attention is everywhere, right? So it's relative to your business, but you should be willing to at least invest and test what you could receive in lifetime value from a customer.
And you talked about making sure that you're kind of meeting your ideal customer where they're at.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really valid point because especially certain industries or certain businesses, they may cater to certain, like you were saying earlier, age groups, age ranges. For example, like if I wanted to reach an age group of like, I don't know, 50 plus, maybe TikTok is not going to be where I want to market, which is a valid point because like you were saying, there's so many different avenues and you need to, that's part of the research too, is where are my customers? How can I find them and go to them? Which I think is also an aspect of starting out that most people aren't aware of. They just think, I want everything right now. I want to get as many people as I can. And I've heard social media is great, so I'm just going to use social media. Or I've heard AI is great, so I'm just going to use AI.
Yeah.
But it might not be, like you were saying, where the ideal customer is.
Yeah, a lot of people get, they try to do too much. They try to do every channel or they are kind of spreading themselves thin. My advice is always, especially if you're just starting out, like find one channel and be really good at it. Just perfect it, right? Just get really, really good. For me, I chose LinkedIn. It's got CEOs, it's got CFOs. Those are the people I want to connect with. Those are the people that I want to hire me as their fractional CMO. And so I chose LinkedIn and I went all in. All I've done is LinkedIn for the past almost year. Well, I was able to generate over $1 million in pipeline for our business just from posting on LinkedIn.
That's awesome.
And I focused just on that, right? Now, I want to start doing more. I want to start doing YouTube and other things, but I need to still continue to get really good at LinkedIn, and then I can start broadening my horizons. And that's what you need to do, is just get really good and consistent at that one thing, and then build out the rest as you go.
Wow, that's really valid.
Crawl, walk, run, right?
Yeah, no, it's so true. Yeah, because a lot of people just don't have the resources to try everything all at once, or even the people to help make the content. Because I feel like a huge part of that process is, like you're saying, finding that one thing to get good at it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you don't, you've kind of, I don't know. And I see this with a lot of people myself. When they first start out making content on social media, they start off maybe with just copying what other people are doing and think, oh, that's working, so therefore I should just do this, or I should try all these things. I'll take everyone's advice all at once and just do it.
Yeah.
But without the context, it for a lot of people, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, yeah, find one thing and just try and get good at that one thing.
Yeah.
And almost I feel like it kind of bleeds into other areas too. You pick up these principles of things that work and don't work. I learned this in a very, and I'll just share this like very brief example. I remember when a couple of years ago when I wanted to be a personal trainer and just have to, at first it was mostly a side business, and I was like, you know what, kind of starting mindset. Everyone's talking about social media. There's so many people who are influencers, building these huge communities, monetizing it. I was like, oh, this is such a huge opportunity. Little did I know at the time that actually the fitness industry is probably the most saturated industry on social media, and I had no idea what I was doing. But I was like, hey, why not? I'll just go for it. And I realized, so I posted every day for like 2 years straight. I was like, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to take everyone's advice and just do it.
Yeah.
I was very committed. And I would find that I had videos or content, whatever, gather a large viewership, but no community was built. I wasn't building anything. I wasn't, like you were saying earlier, I wasn't researching my target audience enough. I wasn't niching down. And especially if you want to reach those audiences, that's where your expertise comes in, of paid advertising, putting your content in front of those people. Organic reach can reach many people, but it might not reach your target audience all the time. But what was funny and this is part of doing the industry research, is the only content that I made that actually blew up or got any kind of viewership was stuff that was purely for comedy. Like no value. Like it would be skits and just funny stuff.
Yeah.
Where I'd be role playing something and I'd make fun of some kind of like gym culture thing where like, who's going to hog the bench, or who's going to get to the bench next, or who's, and then just something funny. And that was the only content that would pick up, and they'd get like hundreds of thousands of views, but no followers, no audience, no community, nothing. And I realized it's like, oh, this is the fitness industry now. This is what social media is. It's not what I thought it was when it was brand new and it's just cool. Everyone's just making content and making money. It's just not what it is. And I guess that's like you're saying, you got to research your people who you want to work with, but also the industry. What are people doing? What are they not doing? I feel like that's a really valid perspective to have when you go into this stuff.
Yeah.
Does the future of, I guess, marketing, I guess I can reframe this question. Do you have any expectations of how marketing will shift into the future with AI coming in? Social media shifts, where I feel like when we first started out on social media, there was a lot of vlogs. It was a lot of day in the life. It was a lot of, that sort of stuff. Whereas now it feels like we're in interest media. Whatever you're interested in is what people want to see. Now we've got AI coming in. We've got, so many tools to just maximize volume. Even for me, it intimidates me a little bit. But what are your expectations for the future there? Do you think it's going to change that drastically? Or do you think there are some things that'll stay?
No, I mean, I think the core fundamentals of marketing will never change. People want they want to be entertained, of course, but they want to know what's in it for them. And you've got to give them those painkillers with your content. Like, here's what's in it for you. Let me tell you exactly what's in it for you, right? And do it in creative ways that are fun and funny and people laugh, and that's all great. And I love it. And, there's a bunch of companies just crushing it right now by doing things like that. Like Liquid Death is one that comes to my mind, of a company that just very fun, very, they had the reviews of, I would rather lick a sweat off of a fat guy's back than drink this drink, right?
Yeah.
And so they literally did like a blind study of, they brought in this guy, they put him in like a suit to make him get all sweaty, and then they had a can of Liquid Death and him sitting on a chair.
No way.
If you haven't seen this, you should go watch it. It's so funny. It came out maybe a year ago or so.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, so drink the Liquid Death. Okay, now lick his back. And everybody's just like so shocked and what's going on. And it's like, okay, so, they're like, we take all reviews seriously, kind of a thing. And it's just so clever and so fun. So I think that part of marketing will never change. That part of content will never change. And then just make it easy for people. People are lazy. I am a big fly fisherman, and so I always tell people this, but there is only one creature lazier than a trout, and that's a human. Like they want everything just spoon fed to them. And if you want to catch a lot of fish, how you do it is you read the water, right? If there is a bunch of fast moving water next to a bunch of slow water, that's where a bunch of fish are going to be. Why? Because the fast water is pushing all of the food to them and they don't have to get up much to get that food. And it's easy for them to just kind of hang out in the slow water. And so that's the same with humans. They literally want things just fed right to them.
Mm. That's a good aspect of marketing. And I feel like you've kind of touched on this throughout, this psychological aspect of understanding how human beings really are.
Yeah.
They want to be catered to. You want to do things for them. And I feel like you can see that a lot in some of the biggest corporations in the world where they're so good at just making it as seamless as possible.
Yeah.
How does that play into marketing, and how does someone get that kind of insight into the psychology of their customer and what humans are really about? Because I think that is an important element, but not one that's often talked about that much. Like, I feel like there's so much discussion around how to optimize this, optimize that, how to increase volume, how to make your content more engaging, how to come up with better hooks. But like you're saying, at the end, the common thread and the reason that most things will probably stay the same is there's a human element. It will always be that way. I guess maybe to make the question more specific, what are those human elements that you think will always stay the same?
People are selfish. They want to know what's in it for me. They are lazy. They want things kind of very simple. You know, if you make somebody go and do work, they're going to be mad. That's why companies like DoorDash and these others exist. People are so lazy that they don't want to drive to a store to go get their food. They want somebody to just drop it off at their doorstep. Think about that.
Yeah.
That is a prime example of just the type. People don't want to have to click more than a few buttons to get their order shipped to their house. When you talk about Amazon, people don't want their devices not to be connected. When you think about Apple, right? These are some of the largest companies in the world, and they all cater to humans being lazy. And not everyone's lazy. I don't want to but generally speaking, people want things to be very simple, very streamlined. They don't want to have to go out of their way to make something happen. So the easier you can make a process, the better your team's going to be, the better your marketing is going to be, the better your brand is going to be perceived. And then they're selfish. Tell them what's in it for them, always.
Yeah. I feel like a great way to validate that is to just be aware of your own scrolling habits.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I find myself doing this where I want to understand why I just did what I did, because it's so easy to mindlessly enter the world of social media. And another quote that I had, this I feel like is the epitome of what scrolling is on social media, where it's like, if you don't control what you consume, social media will consume you.
Yeah.
And you'll go hours and you're like, I don't even know what I just did there. But when you, like everything you just said, I'm like, I can think of numerous instances where I'll just scroll and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to intentionally waste a bit of time here. And I'm going to scroll and I'm going to just let myself do something. And if I catch myself stopping and watching, I want to be like, okay, why did I just stop there? You know, why did I watch this guy or this girl?
Yeah.
Because you were talking about making the customer process really simple. You know, generally people are lazy. I can think of so many instances where I've gone to order something, and if any glitch or anything comes up, I'm like, I don't even care.
Leave. The site is slow, you leave. That's another thing, right? Like, you want to make sure your site is very fast. If you have to wait more than maybe 5 seconds for it to load, you're gone. If the video is taking too long to get to the point, you might be gone. So it's become a big challenge as a marketer, but it's just kind of mandatory. Like, you must have a fast website. You must have a fast social media presence, or like getting to the point quickly. And there's creative ways to like keep people hooked for longer and have them watch long videos. But social media has even made it wait. Like, you can 2x a speed on a TikTok very easy, right?
Yeah.
Because people just want, and I find myself, this is funny, I find myself, if I'm listening to something in 1x speed, I feel like it's slow. Like, I've just lived life at 2x for so long that that's just how it has to be. Yeah. Life has got to be at 2x, and marketing can be no different.
Makes me so scared for my brain. I'm such like, I have to I have to like de-stimulate. Like I
Yeah.
feel like we're in a world now where it's like pendulum is about to swing. We all need to practice boredom. We all need to practice just doing nothing.
Yeah,
And it's crazy.
there was that challenge with, the high school kids like raw dogging boredom, right? They'd put their phone and just sit in a room, and it's like, that was just my childhood.
Yeah. It's it's terrifying, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a practice now. It's no longer just a thing of life. It's like, oh, I have to intentionally
Intentionally
practice
be
doing
bored.
nothing.
Yep.
Something I want to kind of finish off on is throughout your career, like you mentioned, you've worked with huge companies, you've handled millions of dollars in ad spend, creating ads, optimizing the ad process, the customer process, helping companies scale. You've really seen all of it. You've seen the ups and the downs. You've seen all the numbers. You have an insight on this that most people don't have. But a lot of people listening want to build a business. They want to get more leads. They want to thrive. They want to have the lifestyle of their dreams. They want to be able to do what they love and have a growing business. But they hear paid ads, they hear social media, they hear all of these different things. And it might be a little overwhelming to them, and they don't know where to start. They know they want to, but they don't know where to start with digital marketing. If you could share any piece of advice or recommendation for these people, what would you share and why?
Yeah, I mean, you just got to do it. You just got to send it. Like, truly, that's the only way that you're going to get past those fears. And it's amazing. Like, marketing is so fun. Growing companies is so fun, but you just have to learn by doing. It's one of those things that you can read all the courses, you can do all the things, but unless you're actively practicing it, it's very hard to be successful. And so you have to just start doing and start going. And the more you do, the better you will get and the more you will learn. And the fun thing about marketing is there's always something to learn. There's always something changing. I mean, just in the past 6 months, think of what has changed. Think of all the things that are going on. What a crazy, cool time to be alive and be in the business world, with all these enhancements and new companies spinning up at every turn. And, I like to think that having someone, a fractional leader, to kind of help guide you through that is very advantageous. Like I said, consultants can be cheat codes. That's a Mr. Beast quote. And so I think everything that you can do, you should be doing. Just really try, get scrappy, get in there and start. Just send it.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Kyle. We really appreciated your insight. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.